Welcome to this Advocacy MiniMasterclass with Nick Martlew. Nick has been UK Director of a brilliant organisation called Crisis Action, which has a unique toolkit to build powerful coalitions to protect civilians from armed conflict. And he's now taking that toolkit to a new organisation called Digital Action, and they aim to protect our democracies from the dark side of digital. Nick told me about some of the lessons he's learnt along the way, and I hope you find those lessons as useful as I did. So, thanks very much for joining us, Nick.
Thank you.
So, what are the biggest 3 lessons you've learned about building powerful coalitions?
I would say the 3 lessons would be, firstly, it's not about the coalition, it's about the cause. Secondly, as the coalition builder, it's actually not about you. And thirdly, as the strategic convener, the coalition builder, your role is both to listen and to lead.
Okay, great. So what do you mean when you say it's not about the coalition?
So we've all been in a situation, haven't we, where you're part of a coalition, and in an effort to try and keep everyone in, to prevent the number of people opting out, then the messaging gets watered down, the ambition gets watered down, and you end up at lowest common denominator. And what's happening there is they're trying to serve the coalition, not serve the cause. Now, I think the Creative Coalitions approach is that you should have opt-in coalitions rather than opt-out. So instead of trying to minimise dissent, you're trying to maximise impact. So an example of that is working with some of Crisis Action's core partners on trying to get the bank accounts of particular warlords frozen. And we worked with those partners developing a strategy, actually using some of the principles that Kirsty set out in her mini Advocacy Masterclass as well, and built a strategy which showed that obviously an NGO statement was not going to be enough to get these bank accounts frozen of these warlords. So what was needed was economists, was investigators, was the people who were affected by these war crimes. We needed them to use their voice. So we worked with them and they opted into the coalitions. They brought their energy and voice, and they were opting in so that their voice served the strategy rather than serve the coalition.
Great. Okay, so it's not about the coalition, but you also said it's not about you, so why not?
So Digital Action, Crisis Action, we both have the same idea that we don't seek any public profile, don't seek any public funding in our campaigns. And there's other organisations as well, like Green Alliance, like Girls Not Brides, like Refugee Action, which are sort of self-effacing in how they play their convening role. And I think there's a deliberate decision behind all of that, which is you're trying to demonstrate that what you're about is not organisational ego, it's not organisational profile and getting your name out there, it's about what's your contribution to the collective impact. And that trust that you're trying to earn from people, say you're about impact, not ego, that goes a long way to being an effective convener. And there's other ways you can do it as well, by being generous with your connections. You can be generous with the intel that you get, sharing that with your network. And also being thoughtful and generous in how you use your time and energy in doing the strategic convening. All of that builds trust, that it's not about you, it's about your contribution to how the collective can have the greatest impact.
Brilliant. And finally you said listen, don't lead. So what do you mean by that?
So whilst I said low ego, it doesn't mean the same thing as no leadership. So for me, leadership involves listening as well. So you listen and lead. And the first part is about essentially going out there. The best expertise is not in your head, it's in your network. And so going out to the people who can give you the best answers and then snowballing those answers, bringing the best answers to those questions as quickly as possible. And to crowdsource the best possible strategy. And there's other tips you can get on the creativecoalitions.org website from the handbook that captures all this model about how you can do that, listen and lead most effectively. But the leadership bit is really important as well. You're not just aggregating the inputs you get from your partners, from the people you're working with. You're then trying to take that strategy and that trust and then leading with it with greater ambition, just a greater impact than could otherwise be achieved by any one organisation working on its own or by a coalition working on lowest common denominator. So that's what I mean by saying you need to first listen but then lead.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Nick. Really great answers. So the final thing is we're asking everyone who records a mini masterclass to make a recommendation for a piece of reading or watching or listening. So what's yours?
So I brought a prop with me, which is this, Be More Pirate. And I've brought this because it had sort of personal impacts on me in the way I work, the way I approach my work. And three things particularly I highlight from this. Firstly is you're scaling for impact, not scaling your organisation, and that's similar to the serving the cause, not serving the coalition. So I take that very strongly. Then secondly, it's about cool branding. You've got the bright colours, which I think is very important as well. And then thirdly, it's about choosing which rules you want to break and then reforming them. And so we've actually got to be slightly mutinous in a system where the rules are rigged against the most vulnerable. Then we need to choose which rules we want to break and then reform them.
Well, thanks very much to Nick again, and thanks very much for watching. Please, if you have any questions, do email or tweet or leave a comment, and please do share this video and watch out for the next mini masterclass. Thanks very much.